listening to the Casting for Fun podcast, the show that talks about entertainment, sports, music, and inspirational stories for all to enjoy. We're glad you could join us today. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Now, here is your host, Albert Pineda.
This is the Casting for Fun podcast. I am your host, Albert Pineda, and this episode is for Wednesday, September the 6th, 2023. For this week's episode, my good friend Stephen Cable returns to the show. It's been too long since Stephen made his last appearance on the Casting for Fun podcast. In fact, we discussed it on the show. It's been almost a year. So I'm grateful to have Stephen on to talk sports. We dive in extensively into everything going on with college football, with the craziness with conferences and everything like that. We talk about UCLA, USC, the rivalry that exists in his family, as he's a USC fan and his wife Holly is a UCLA fan. He tells a really fun story about that. It's actually pretty cool. And again, the Cables are awesome. I love Steven. I love Holly. And we talk extensively about the NFL. We're excited for football to be back. In fact, the first NFL game of the season will be tomorrow night, Thursday the 7th. Thursday the 7th, yes. Again, reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, will host the Detroit Lions. And football's back, and it's an exciting time of the year, fall sports. So I'm looking forward to my conversation with Steven, and I'm getting closer and closer to episode 100. So really cool stuff coming up in the next couple of months with Casting for Fun podcasts. So here we go. This is my conversation with Stephen Cable. So welcome back to the show, Stephen Cable. Stephen, how are you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing real good, Albert. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, and thanks for coming again, returning to the show. You know, it doesn't feel like it because we see each other all the time at church and at gatherings. I mean, we'll see each other, I guess, at back to school night tomorrow night.
That's true.
Technically, it's been a year since you've been on the show, so it's good to have you back on the podcast.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I should reach out to you more frequently to have you on.
Wow, it does not feel like a year ago I've been on this.
Yeah, I mean, you've been on a few times, but yeah, technically it's been, I think, September or October of last year, we talked about Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah, I remember that. That's okay. Yeah, it was probably October because it was after I saw it after the conference I went to, and that was in September, so it was probably in October.
Yeah. So along with having you on again for future episodes, we definitely want to jump into some sports talk. It's an exciting time of the year. Like, we're entering the fall season. This is basically probably like the most abundant time for sports, where there's so much going on, where yes, college football and NFL will be our prime talking points, but you know, in a couple of weeks, NBA and NHL will also be returning, and then we'll have soccer and MLB going on. So like the month of October is like when everything's being played.
Everything's going. It's a fun time. It's a lot of fun.
But so I'm very anxious to talk some college football with you and NFL talk as well, and to kind of hear the story of how it worked out for you and Holly to be fans of rival schools. You know, as your friend, I feel like I should know the story, but I don't. I do. So it'd be nice to kind of get the details about that, because I think it's probably be a fun story. Okay, very cool. So how did it work out? I mean, when you were first dating Holly, did you know? I mean, was she a big UCLA fan at the time, or how exactly did it work out for you guys?
Yeah, so we both grew up rooting for our separate teams. So I grew up rooting for USC. She grew up rooting for UCLA. We met in the singles ward, and when we were kind of hanging out at FHE, we found out, you know, who we rooted for, and we found out that the only team we had in common was the Dodgers. And so everything else was a rival sports team. And so most FHEs, I gave her a hard time about being a UCLA fan and teased her a lot about it. And then the first time we really hung out a lot, she was going to a UCLA game that day, and I ended up being invited to go to that game. It was a UCLA-Stanford game. Mm-hmm. And so I tried to be good there and did not tease too much at that game and be a good good friend at that time, but since we've been married, I give her a hard time about it because I think SC is far superior than UCLA. So.
Oh, very nice, very
But
nice.
yeah, it's fun. We've had a lot of fun with it, and we've at first for a long time we didn't watch the SC UCLA games together. It was too hard for us to do it. We would kind of offend each other, and so we watched separately at our parents' houses. And as our years have gone on, we've grown to be able to watch games together, and we've actually attended live SC UCLA games together, and we've had a lot of fun with it. So it's fun, but um, the one thing we don't have is the boys haven't decided what side they're going to join yet. So just the other day, our boys and Holly went to a high school football game, and Tanner was wearing a USC shirt and a UCLA hat. So
Oh.
they still haven't figured that quite out.
Yeah, that's got to be a really tough decision for the kids. I mean, because like they don't want to disappoint either parent. I mean, they love
Correct.
both, so
Yeah.
it's a really hard one.
They're always rooting for both right now, so it's kind of fun to see them do that. But it's
Very
good.
cool. Have you guys done any like friendly wagers with games or anything like that?
We've done it once. We did it. I forget what year it was. But for an SC UCLA football game, we bet whoever won, the other person had to wear the other team's colors for a full day.
Oh,
And
okay. And did you
and
guys go
so
out in public then, or?
yeah, yeah. And so SC won, and Holly had to wear a USC shirt for the day. So,
Oh.
and I have a picture of that too. So, maybe I'll use it for your Instagram
Oh, that'd be cool. If,
for this
if Holly's
podcast.
okay with that, I don't want to offend Holly because again, Holly's like seriously like one of the nicest, sweetest people you'll ever meet.
She is.
And I do feel kind of bad that I don't want to name names, but certain people are kind of mean and rude to Holly, I guess, for her fandom for UCLA.
Yes, some people, I don't know, take it a little too far with rivalry stuff
Yeah.
and tease a little too hard. And I've probably done that in the past too. So, I've probably been guilty of that, but it's fun to tease and have fun with it.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it could actually be good to strengthen the marriage too, because to be honest, Allison and I don't have anything that we like hardcore disagree on. At least not
Yeah.
that I can think of off the top of my head. I know she's probably listening in, so maybe she can think of something.
It's funny. We don't disagree on really a whole lot, except for the sports teams we root for separately. And it's funny. I had a conversation with Roger Evans about this, and he's like, "Me and my wife disagree on everything." He's like, politics, religion, all these different things. He's like, "But I don't think our marriage could survive if we didn't agree on our sports teams." And he's like, "It's amazing what you and Holly do." And I was like, "Oh, it's the only thing we disagree on. Maybe that's why it works." But
Yeah, yeah. Oh, very good, very good. So actually, that kind of transitions into what I want to talk about now. So, it's kind of old news since USC and UCLA both made the announcement actually last summer in
yeah,
2022 that they were going to be leaving the Pac-12 for the Big Ten. So even though it's kind of older news, it's still like the effects are still being felt today
big
will be
time.
felt next year in 2024. So if you can kind of make sense of everything that's going on with all the shakeups with football conferences, do you like what's happening? Do you like that they're going to be going to the Big Ten? Is the conference still going to be called the Big Ten because they'll have more than 10 schools, right?
So currently they currently have more than 10 schools. So yeah, it will still be called the Big Ten.
Oh,
So
okay, okay. So I
yeah,
guess that won't matter.
no, that doesn't matter. But yeah, it's a wild time in college football, and
Mhm.
there's so many layers and different things going on with this conference shakeup. And I could go so many different directions with it. But the first thought I have is how bad the Pac-12 messed up. They messed this up really bad.
Mhm.
And when you don't take care of the two schools that make you the most money, it's going to turn out bad. And that's why those two schools left, because they didn't feel like they were getting their fair share of what they were bringing into the Pac-12. And then after that, you lose your top two schools. You would think you would go out and start recruiting other schools to come into your conference, and they just sat on their hands and didn't do anything. And then it was Colorado for the next domino to fall this year. They announced they were going to the Big 12, and then it was just a ripple effect. Everybody was like, "Oh, we're bailing now," and
Mhm.
just pretty wild. On the, am I happy they're going to the Big 12, the Big 10? I hate seeing the Pac-12 go away. I've loved Pac-12 football. I think it was great for college football to have the conference on the West Coast. So it's sad to see the Pac-12 go away. It really does stink to see that go away. Um, the cool thing about going to the Big Ten is SC gets to play some bigger schools a lot more. They get to play the likes of Michigan and Ohio State and Penn State. So that'll be a lot of fun. Those schools that don't get to come out here often are going to get to come out here. At first, when it was just SC and UCLA, it was a little bit more. I was a little bit more worried about travel and things like that because they're going to be traveling back east a lot. But now that Oregon and Washington are going to the Big Ten, they're going to play a few more games on the West Coast, so that's exciting. One thing about SC is their offense is a lot different than anything in the Big Ten. Nobody plays offense like SC, so that will be a different dynamic for Big Ten football. Big Ten football is power football. They don't really spread it out too much. Ohio State might be that only team that spreads it out. So that will be a cool dynamic to see SC's offense against those defenses and how that shakes out. So it's a crazy time. I think the Pac-12 is going to go away completely. There's only 2 teams left in the Pac-12 currently, and I just think it's going to end up folding and going away, and that's a total shame of how that all went down.
It does seem unusual to me because to me it seems more so than maybe like with professional sports on the collegiate level, like schools are really into history and tradition, and like it didn't seem like they would come to this decision lightly, like saying, hey, we're gonna leave the conference that we've been a part of for how long, over 100 years, or how long has it been?
Yeah, and so and part of that has been the Rose Bowl has been one of the biggest traditions in college football, like the biggest tradition in college football. And that's always kind of been the hang up with the new college playoffs and the bowl games and everything is the Rose Bowl's always wanted to have their traditional game of Pac-12 versus Big Ten. And so now that's gone. Like that there's not going to be a traditional game of Pac-12 Big Ten football. So it's really sad to see that tradition go away. And it all falls on the Pac-12 and how they were run. That their commissioners just, I think they blew it from the very start. You think back, I was talking to one of my friends about this. You think back 4 to 5, 6 years ago when it first was talked about of having major conferences, the Pac-12 was leading the front. They were talking about bringing in Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. They were going to lead the charge, and then that kind of fell through, and then a few years later, Texas and Oklahoma are now going to the SEC, and then UCLA and SC follow to the Big Ten, and now it's just all blown up, and the Pac-12s end up probably going to go completely away, and it's a shame. But it's exciting to be able to go play new schools a lot and see how that shakes out. Travel's going to be interesting. On a different level, football and basketball, it's not a big deal travel-wise. They travel all the time. But, I've been reading a lot about how the smaller sports are a little frustrated that they're going to have to travel to the East Coast and come back. And so that'll be a dynamic that might shake out in the next couple of years. The smaller sports at these schools might have a bigger say in how this goes down, and maybe things shake up a little bit more even in the future. But there's a lot of moving parts to this. There's a lot of layers to all of it, and it's fascinating. It really is.
Oh, it absolutely is too. In fact, the thought just kind of popped into my head, and this seems extremely unlikely. I don't think anyone would go for this, but the fact that you mentioned the football teams having to travel, but I mean, again, the college football teams are only playing once a week, so travel to the East Coast once during the week, and then ideally the next weekend you're home. It probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. But for other sports where you're playing multiple times throughout the week, I don't know if there would ever be a scenario where certain teams would actually stay in their traditional conferences. I mean, if one school's in, it'd be all in, right?
So there's been instances where schools have been in a conference for football and basketball, and then the smaller schools have been in other conferences. I think BYU did it. I think when BYU was in the Mountain West for football, all their other conference sports were in the WAC for a little while. So Notre Dame's done it too, where Notre Dame, I mean, they've always been independent, but then they were kind of, as the football team was independent, all their other schools were competing in the ACC. So there's been different instances like that, and that could shake up where it goes that way, where, the bigger schools are in different conference, or bigger sports, excuse me, are in different conferences compared to the smaller sports. That could be a shake up down the line for sure.
Oh, okay. So it's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it is, because there has been precedent set. It hasn't been a lot. It's only been a few schools, but it definitely could happen. I heard somebody talking about how on the baseball side, they can't imagine a baseball team going out to play Ohio State for 3 games and then having to come right back to, California to play another 3 and then have to travel back out to the Big Ten. Like, so baseball is going to be one of those sports where it's going to be a lot of travel, and, it's going to be a lot harder for those schools
Yeah.
or those sports. I keep saying schools, but those sports. But so there could be a shakeup like that where the smaller sports do stay in a certain conference and compared to football and basketball. But we'll see. I don't think this is a settled thing at all. I think we'll go a few years and see how this goes, and I think there will be more shakeup, and there's going to be a lot of change in college football for a while.
Mm-hmm. Is there any chance at all that the Pac-12 makes a push and they're actually able to bring some schools in? I mean, I know you mentioned there's only 2, but I mean, as it stands, starting next year in 2024, there'll just be 2, assuming they don't leave. But I mean, is it out of the realm of possibility that they could possibly bring in additional schools on the West Coast to join the conference?
I don't think so yet. I think, I mean, they're not saying a whole lot, the Pac-12, but they could still take schools from the WAC conference and from the Mountain West conference and make a conference. They won't be considered a Power 5 conference anymore football wise.
Yeah.
But, they haven't said like they're folding or anything, but it's definitely not going to be anywhere close to the same Pac-12 football that it's been. But they could take over another conference and then that conference folds. That's definitely still a possibility. So we'll end up seeing what happens by the end of this football season, what they decide to do. And I think that's what these 2 schools are waiting for. I think it's Oregon State and Washington State left, and they might stick around or they might go find another conference at some point. But there's still going to be a lot of changes going on for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So college football is very, very crazy, very interesting.
It's fun. Yeah, I'm excited. And the cool thing this year, I just saw a stat today where the Pac-12 is the only conference to go undefeated in the first week. So
really? Wow.
They're 13-0 here in the first week, and it's like, man, the Pac-12 could go out on a huge bang here if they have a really good football season. And so it should be a lot of fun watching Pac-12 football this last season and before they all split off. But
yeah, it kind of can be a little confusing to make sense of everything because there's so many schools and programs to watch, so you can kind of just get overwhelmed. But when you flip on, just see random scores going on and upsets occurring, it's actually pretty exciting and cool. In fact, before we started recording, it's already gone final. Duke upset Clemson, right?
Clemson.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I was watching that tonight, and it was, when I turned it on, it was a 13-7 football game, and then Clemson fumbled on the half-yard line, and Duke took over there and won 28-7. Pretty big upset to start the year. Clemson was ranked 7, I believe, or 6, and
and Duke unranked.
Duke's unranked. So that's definitely the biggest upset of the first weekend for sure.
Yeah.
And then you'd have to go and see what Colorado did to TCU yesterday and beat them, which was one of the most exciting football games of the weekend, I think. So college football is going to be a lot of fun this year. It really is. And I love college football, even more than the NFL. So I'm really excited for this college football season.
Oh, very cool. So I want to go back to USC and the offense as you described as well. Yeah. So I've been reading about this kid, Zachariah Branch. I mean, he seems to be really highly touted. Like there's even been some NFL players reaching out to him. I guess like Odell Beckham Jr. gave him a call after his first game. He fielded offers from Alabama, right? Or what? There was another big Southern school that was interested in him.
He got offers from a bunch of schools. He was one of the biggest 5-star players coming out of into the recruiting process this year. And so, but he was always going to go to SC, it sounded like, and he's exciting. His first game as a true freshman to get a receiving touchdown and a kickoff return touchdown, it's pretty impressive. He looks fantastic. And I know as an SC fan and other SC fans, everybody's kind of been always looking for that next Reggie Bush. That's always kind of been the thing since Reggie was at SC. And, Adoree Jackson was one of those guys that people thought maybe was going to be the next Reggie Bush. I personally think there's not going to be another guy ever like Reggie Bush. But the stats that Zachariah Branch put up in that first game, that was pretty close to anything we might see to him. So he's going to be an exciting player to watch. True freshman, and he returned a touchdown on kickoff, and that was the first one SC had since 2019, I read. So that's a long time, that's 4 years and haven't had a kickoff return for a touchdown. And I think it was even longer than that to have a guy have a receiving touchdown and a kick return for a touchdown. I think it was Adoree Jackson in 2014. They said that did that. So he's definitely electric, and I can see why people compare him to Reggie Bush and other guys. But he's going to be a lot of fun to watch this year.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm excited to see where his career goes in the future as well. So that should be pretty
Yeah, and teaming him up with Caleb Williams, it's going to be awesome to watch. I'm super excited to watch that offense play.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask about him too. So yeah, so reigning Heisman winner, trophy winner, Caleb Williams. How many he had? Like 5 touchdowns against Nevada this past weekend.
Yeah, he had 5 touchdowns. Yeah,
but again, I don't know if that's saying a whole lot against Nevada, but
it's not. But the first 2 weeks he's done what he's needed to do, and then he's been able to sit out the fourth quarter both weeks. And so I think that's huge for SC too. Is they've put up huge numbers where he can just play 3 quarters and put up those kind of numbers and get him some rest and keep him healthy. And so that's what you kind of have to do against non-conference teams that aren't very good, is you blow them out and you let your guys sit and rest, and that way they're ready to go and play the tougher conference games.
Oh, very good.
They're taking care of business. And I was talking to my dad about it, and it's been a while since SC's had a team where they blow out the teams they should blow out. When Clay Helton was the head coach, they kind of played to the level of everybody. And it was kind of frustrating to watch, but now they're starting to blow out the teams they should blow out and get your starters some rest. And then that also gives guys the opportunity to play that don't get to play very often, and they get to see some reps on the field, and that helps all the way down the line as well. So it's good that they're doing that. And it doesn't say a whole lot when you put up huge numbers against bad teams, but it does help to put up huge numbers against bad teams for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been able to watch the games, right? I know there's been some controversy with the way things have shaken up with Spectrum and Disney. I heard about that. So on Thursday, right as Utah and Florida was about to kick off, like people who were watching it on the cable provider Spectrum had their feed cut off, like right there on the spot.
Yeah.
So it can be really frustrating and kind of disheartening for fans not to be able to watch the games. But you've been able to watch the game so far, right?
So we have Spectrum, and we found out about it on that Thursday night. We weren't watching the Utah-Florida game. We were doing something else. But we heard about it that night, and so we were like, well, how are we going to watch football this weekend? And Holly was like, SC or UCLA plays on ESPN. Like, we have to figure this out. And so yesterday or Saturday morning, I got on and I signed up for a free trial of YouTube TV for 21 days. And so we were able to watch this weekend, or we'll be able to watch for the next 3 weeks, and then we'll have to figure it out after that. But that's a crazy dispute too. And I read an article about that on Saturday, and the person that wrote that article said that this isn't a normal labor dispute or contract dispute either. They said this could be a definite permanent thing between Disney and Spectrum. So people are going to have to figure out other options to watch these games for sure, because it's ABC, it's ESPN, it's the whole package. And so that's a lot of football games you can't watch.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy with Spectrum. Yes, they have the stranglehold on the Dodgers, but I mean, other than that, they don't really have much else, right?
No, and so like that's the only thing that keeps me from just bailing on Spectrum now is I still want to watch the Dodgers. So with this contract, and I've watched YouTube TV and I really enjoy it, and I like how they have different features where you could watch 4 different games at once on a split screen on your TV. And but then it was like, well, how do I watch the Dodgers if I get rid of Spectrum? And so it's kind of a catch-22 and a push and pull. So we'll see what I end up doing here, but hopefully it just comes back to Spectrum and we can keep watching like that, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's opening up like a whole nother can of worms of just like going over everything for streaming, because it can be kind of cumbersome and difficult to work it all out. But yeah, for the most part, if you do a streaming like a provider, like Allison and I use Hulu, which we enjoy it, they'll notify you and tell you if this game is going to be nationally televised. So
Okay.
so I know SC and Stanford, I think is the next one coming up next weekend.
Yeah.
I think
They
that
play
one's
this
going to be
weekend.
on Fox proper. So that one would be nationally televised. So everyone
Yeah.
should be able to get that one.
Yeah.
And then if you sign up for other services like Apple TV offers Friday night MLB games, and usually
Okay.
they're playing on Friday night, they'll show their game.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
so there are some workaways around it if you're willing to
Yeah.
spend some money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and the cool thing about I don't know if Hulu does this, but YouTube TV, they show your local stations. So you get the 2, the 4, the 5, the
Yeah.
7. I don't know if Hulu does that. So you still get your local stations, which is kind of cool too through YouTube TV. So um, yeah, there's definitely a lot of options, and we're gonna have to really pay attention to see how this shakes out with Spectrum. But we definitely don't want to miss our college football. So
Oh
that's been a
yeah.
big push for us to figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Hulu does do the local channels as well. So
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I mean, you can't really go wrong with either one, Hulu or YouTube TV. Those are
Yeah.
to be kind of like the two best as far as like
Yeah.
streaming goes. But for anyone listening and you have suggestions as to what's the best way to catch up some college football, let us know. I
Yeah,
guess the
for
good
sure.
news is the best games, or not necessarily the best games, because you never know when two teams play. But the most anticipated games are usually on national TV.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But you can get some hidden gems and you didn't even realize it. It's just
Yeah,
random
100%.
teams playing and they end up playing really well. So
Yeah. That's what's cool about college football is you just never know who's going to show up and beat who whatever weekend. So it's a lot of fun.
absolutely, yeah. Did you have anything else about college football that you wanted to bring up or discuss?
I don't think so. No, I think we covered everything on college football for sure.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Let's jump into some NFL talk. So
Sure.
I'm always again excited for this time of year when
Yeah.
is back and there's always sports to watch. Lots of cool stories coming out of the off season. I mean, I know it was a very scary scenario when Damar Hamlin went down with his injury. I mean, the whole
Yeah.
country was pulling for the guy. So it was kind of inspiring and cool to read that he made the Bills squad, even though
Yeah.
as a bench player, he's not going to be the starting safety.
Yeah, he's not going to start. Yeah.
But that is pretty cool. Were you watching the game when it happened?
I wasn't watching the game when it happened. We were out doing something, and I came home and turned it on. And when we turned it on, we saw everybody around him, and we were kind of figuring out what happened. And then they started showing the replays. But yeah, what a scary situation that was. And you instantly think once he's like making sure, like, I hope he's okay, like I hope he survives. And then your next thought is like, man, I don't think he's ever going to play again. Like, you have an injury like that. Like, can you actually come back from that? And then for him to be 8 months later to actually even show up to training camp was impressive. And to make the roster, like, hats off to him. That is fantastic to go through everything he did and to make the roster. It's cool, and it's going to be a story, every week wherever he goes. And when he gets into play, it's going to be talked about. And so it's a cool story, and it's cool to follow. And yeah, it's just really impressive that he even came back the very next season, because that injury happened last week of the season, second to last week of the season.
Yeah, like
Something like really late. So it's not like he had a full year to even try to recover. And so it's super impressive, and hats off to that guy. Pretty cool.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So again, at this time of year, I mean, there's just tons of speculation going on. Like usually ESPN, they're reporting just I guess making up, not to say making up stories, but just,
it almost is making up stories.
Yeah, just their predictions are pretty wild, and sometimes they're fun to look at. I mean, no one really knows for certain, but I come across an article on ESPN that was kind of funny, or just explaining some of their predictions for the season. Like they see that they have the Jets winning the AFC North over Buffalo, but then Buffalo would still do better than them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So I mean, do you think that's going to make a difference with Aaron Rodgers taking over at QB for them?
I don't know. So I'm a huge Dolphins fan, and so I've always hated the Jets, and so it's hard for me to be like, yeah, they're going to be good, but it's a quarterback-driven league, and they've got a quarterback now, so. Can he take them over the top? Yeah, he can. But I'm not sold on it yet. I don't know if they're going to be that good right away. It's obviously the Bills' division to lose. They've been the team the past 2 to 3 years that have kind of been the top team in that division. but the Dolphins aren't a slouch team either. Like if Tua stays healthy, they're going to be competing for the division lead too. And so I can't get on board with the Jets just being the team to beat in the East. I think it's Buffalo and Miami still, and then the Jets have to prove themselves. So if I had to rank the AFC East, it's going to be Buffalo, Miami, New York. But I know a lot of people are hyped up about the Jets, so we'll see how it happens. But
It'll be interesting. And again, it's kind of one of those things that, like, I mean, if they just flounder and just play Jets football like we're accustomed to them seeing, then it'll be just laughing at ESPN, or they could be geniuses and they're right on. So who knows?
Yeah, and they're a New York team, so they're going to get a lot of buzz too. You know, you get a big player in New York, and everybody's going to talk about it. So I get it. Aaron Rodgers is a huge get, and he is older, but he can still play football. And so with it being such a quarterback-driven league, quarterbacks can change teams in a heartbeat. And, you've seen that multiple times with, the likes of Matthew Stafford coming to the Rams and they win the Super Bowl his first year. And, so it can happen. Quarterbacks change teams instantly. So the Jets can be good, but the Jets haven't been good in a long time. So I'm just not getting on board with it yet, but we'll see.
That's definitely a right way to look at it. ESPN's also predicting that the Lions are actually going to have a winning season this year, actually make the playoffs, which is crazy to me.
I just saw tonight actually that they're predicting them to win the division. And they improved a ton last year, no doubt. Obviously, Green Bay is going to be down because Aaron left, and Bears stink. I don't think the Bears are going to compete. So it really, I think the Lions are at least the second best team in the North. Do they beat the Vikings? I don't know. Kirk Cousins is so good there, and they have Justin Jefferson. They have such a good football team in Minnesota. So I think the Lions are 2 in the North. I don't think they're number 1, but who knows?
Yeah,
like it's a wild prediction. Maybe it's just to get storylines. But as I think about it, it's Minnesota in the North. They were too good last year, and I think they're going to be just as good this year.
And then one more wild prediction from ESPN is they were predicting that the Super Bowl is going to be Philadelphia versus Baltimore, with the Eagles taking it, which again seems so strange to me.
Yeah,
I don't know. What do you have? I mean, it's a crapshoot at this point to pick.
It is
who's going to make it.
I can definitely see Philadelphia getting back there. I think they're definitely probably the best team in the NFC, but Baltimore, maybe. I mean, I don't feel like a lot's changed with Baltimore from last season. Lamar Jackson is a heck of a football player, and if he stayed healthy at the end of the year, maybe they make a run. But again, like you look at, I think the 3 teams there is Kansas City, Cincinnati, and Buffalo. Yeah. I think those are one of the 3 teams that are going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
With fringe teams being like Baltimore, Miami, but I just can't see Baltimore being predicted to go to the Super Bowl. Like if I'm picking it's going to be one of those 3 teams, and I would probably pick Philadelphia in the NFC to make it again. But yeah, I'm not on that Baltimore train either. But I think it is. People call it the offseason, the silly season, for a reason, because people come up with all kinds of things, and a lot of it is to get storylines and to get people to watch their shows when there's not football on. And so during the summer, it's really only baseball that's going on. So if you're going to talk about other sports, you've got to come up with other things. And so I think that's part of it. I really do. I think it's clickbait, but.
Yeah. I mean, after that story posted, I'm sure people in Philadelphia were buzzing like, "Oh wow, they were going to win." But yeah, I don't know. It's just it will be interesting and fun to see how things shake out, because again, so many stories emerge throughout the season. You just never know what's going to happen. But you can, I think, make an estimated guess as to like who would probably be on top. And if I were picking like you, Steven, I'd probably pick either Buffalo, Kansas City, or
Cincinnati.
Thank you. For one of the AFC teams to make it to the Super Bowl.
For sure. And then there's fringe teams. You go down each division. The Chargers have always been there. They kind of just can't get over that hump. Who were we just talking about? We were talking Baltimore. They're going to be good. Miami. It all hinges on for Miami is Tua. If Tua could stay healthy and not get another concussion, because they were one of the best teams in football when he played last year. I don't think they lost a game when Tua played last year. So if he stays healthy, they're going to be really good. It was a bummer that Jalen Ramsey got hurt in the first week of camp, and he's going to be out to December. So that's going to hurt their defense a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, the big three teams in the AFC are definitely those three. And then you look at the NFC, it's probably Philadelphia, Minnesota. Man, I don't even know who else would probably. I mean, I think the Niners are still going to be good. Brock Purdy's, see what he does in his second year. The Rams are kind of a crapshoot. They were so bad last year, but they still have really good football players, and they still have Matthew Stafford, who's a really good quarterback, and they could show up again. I've seen a lot of hype about Seattle this year. I don't really see it. Can Geno Smith do that 2 years in a row? So we'll see. You never know with injuries and different things going on in the NFL that it could happen. But it's not a really parity league. A lot of times it's your top teams, and those are the top teams that are going to be there. It's not like hockey where the 8th seed makes it to the Stanley Cup a couple of times. That's happened the past 2 or 3 times in the past 10 years. So the NFL is not like that. Your top teams in the playoffs are usually going to be your top teams through the playoffs. So I think those are the top teams. Everybody likes a fringe story. Everybody likes underdog showing up and making noise. So it could happen, but we'll just see how it plays out and enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So definitely looking forward to the season. First game Thursday, Kansas City defending champs playing actually the Lions, to be honest. That's very interesting. And I just love just getting good food to eat.
Yeah.
Eat while I'm watching the games and just enjoy it. It's just it's a blast. The fall is really cool.
And I was thinking about it this year too. I don't think the NFL's ever opened on a Thursday. Is this the first year they've opened on a Thursday?
No, I think in recent years they've been doing it that way.
Maybe I just haven't paid attention.
The first game on Thursday, yeah.
Yeah. That's the best Thursday game to have.
You
get to start off on Thursday, and then you get the extra 3 days rest going into your next week. It's almost like a mini bye week for those two teams. So
yeah,
that's pretty cool for them. But how do you like Thursday night football?
Thursday night football is pretty cool. So actually, Amazon Prime has the exclusive television.
Yeah.
Rights. So I mean, most Americans, we subscribe to Prime. So
for
you
sure,
can actually watch the game. So that's actually pretty cool. That consistently every single Thursday there's going to be a game.
Yeah. What I love about Thursday night, the Prime telecast, is they got 2 of the best college football guys to call those games, and so it's kind of cool to see the college, like Kirk Herbstreit, call an NFL game.
Yeah,
and so that's a lot of fun to see that. But yeah, the NFL knows how to make their money, and Thursday night football because it used to be, if I remember right, growing up, Thursday night football was a new thing, and it was only like near the end of the season they would bring out Thursday night games. And now that it's every week, you get Thursday and then Friday college football, Saturday college football, Sunday pro football, Monday pro football. You're really just missing Tuesday and Wednesday for football in the week, and so it's a lot of fun that you can have football that many days of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I think Allison might argue, maybe it's actually good to have a little break.
I disagree with that. I love football. You can have it on every night for all I care. That'd be awesome.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. So definitely the fall season's always fun. It's great. I mean, I enjoy summer, and August is great because it's my birthday month. It's Allison's birthday month, but we are kind of nice. It's nice to say goodbye to the triple digit heat and just enjoy the fall season.
For sure. And then, as October rolls around, you got playoff baseball coming around. And so that's going to be a ton of fun. And it's an exciting time in sports when fall rolls around for sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Was there anything else from college, either college football, the NFL, or sports in general you wanted to bring up before we wrap up?
How you feel about fantasy football this year?
It should be okay. I mean, I always get a C rating from sports, so I mean, it's not that big of a deal to me. But it's just fun. It's just cool to actually be paying attention to how players are doing, making sure your roster's set, and then catch a game or two if you can. I mean, it's kind of hard sometimes with family and church responsibilities, but yeah, usually good to catch at least 1 or 2 games throughout the weekend, and usually it's one of my guys playing that I'm watching. So
yeah, for sure. The draft was exciting for me because I don't think I've ever gotten an A+ in anything in my life. So to get an A+ in my draft was kind of exciting for me, even though I know it means nothing.
10th, right? So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, out of the 10th pick. So that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed our draft, and I thought I did pretty well. But then when they rated it A+, that kind of gave me a little boost going into the season. So I'm excited for it, and I love what fantasy football does as a fan too, because it puts me into games that I actually probably wouldn't pay attention to most times, and
Yeah.
you kind of get to root for your guys and see how it goes. So I love playing fantasy football. I'm excited to play it again this year and defend my championship.
Oh, very cool. So it should be really fun. And Allison's encouraging me to speak up a little more to you, but I don't know about
to talk a little bit more trash.
Yeah, speak a little more trash.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not my style, but we'll see.
It's all right. It's hard when you get a C- though to talk trash. So
okay, yeah, Allison's laughing at that one now.
What's that?
She was laughing at that joke.
But yeah, it's exciting. I'm excited for all things football, and I think it's going to be a really fun fall time to watch football and watch the Dodgers go into the World Series. And even though, did you hear the news today about Julio Urias?
I did, yeah. In fact, I guess he got himself into a little bit of hot water after attending the LAFC Miami game, where he went to go watch Messi play, and apparently, I guess it's his second run-in with domestic violence.
His second domestic violence, yeah. And so
I don't know. I mean, the Dodgers had no tolerance for Trevor Bauer, right? So
no, and so it's interesting because he's a free agent at the end of this year too. So it's definitely not something you want going into your free agency year either. Yeah. So I don't see him being a Dodger next year now. I think that he's kind of burned that bridge. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with him. But it's a shame, it's a shame to see what he did for the Dodgers in 2020 to kind of win that World Series. And then now we're in this situation where he's not even probably going to pitch the rest of this year, and probably won't be a Dodger next year now because they've kind of set precedent with what they do with this kind of stuff. And so you just don't see him signing him, I guess, now.
Yeah, I would be completely shocked if all of a sudden like he's pitching again in the next week or so, because I mean, like you said, it's a pretty serious accusation, and it's just time. So
yeah, and the Dodgers have kind of showed that they don't tolerate that kind of stuff. So it's a shame, we on the baseball side, the Dodgers need his arm, going down the stretch here and going into the playoffs. They definitely need his arm, but it's also a shame, what's going on in his personal life. So, hopefully everything works out for him and in his situation and everything gets better, but I don't see him being a Dodger anymore. We might have seen him pitch his last game in Dodger uniform. Pretty sad. Yeah. But Buehler's coming back maybe. So Buehler's working out, and he pitched a AAA game the other night. So maybe
that's exciting to hear, because I remember reading the reports when he first went down that it was anticipated he wouldn't be back at all in 2023.
Right.
We'd see him back would be spring of next year. So
right, and so he's not gonna, if he comes back, he's not gonna start. Like they're not gonna put him in that kind of situation. But to have his arm coming out of the bullpen for an inning, down the stretch, it could be huge. So hopefully he's healthy enough, and I heard he was throwing 96, 97. So hopefully he shows back up and can give us a little boost out of the bullpen or something. But
yeah, absolutely.
The Dodgers didn't look that good this weekend against the Braves, but hopefully they can finish the season strong and go into the playoffs.
Yeah, I'd rather them look a little work out the kinks now versus the Braves versus having to work it out when they meet them in the postseason. So.
Yeah, they're gonna see him in the postseason for sure. So it was kind of a cool little preview, but they'll definitely have to play better when they face him again.
Well, very good. So I guess if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and wrap up for tonight. But
all right,
Steven, we'll definitely have you back on the podcast sooner rather than later. In fact, I want to try and do the couples game that Allison wanted to try with Polly. If Polly's
that'd be fun. Yeah, let's do it.
Very cool. Okay, well, thanks again for talking sports, and we'll do this soon.
Anytime, Albert. No, it's fun.
Podcast. Thanks, everybody.